Hello, I'm Ines Alea from ToleratedCinematics.com, and today I will be showing you how to texture a Pokeball. So in the previous tutorial we modeled this Pokeball, and right now we are going to model, actually texture it. So I'm going to delete this texture and we're going to start right away. So the first thing I will do is optimize my render settings right here. So I'm going to the renderer and use the physical render engine, go to the output, and I'm going to change this to full HD. So that's 1920 by 1080p. The resolution of 72 is okay, frame rate is okay. Well, actually we can save this, changes to 24 if we're going to do animation, but yeah, that's not what we are planning right now. So save, okay, we shouldn't save it at this moment. So that's all you should do, and just close this down. Then next, what I will do is add a physical sky right here, and that way we already have some nice reflections in our Pokeball. Of course, you can upload your own HDRI images that will give you some nicer reflections, but we will do that later on. So I'm going to group this into a new object, and I'm going to rename this to Pokeball. I'm going to save this first, and then right-click, create a new material. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to remove my grid here and also my environment so we can focus on this Pokeball and actually see it. Maybe also remove the axis here. Well, the axis points, world axis, there we go. Okay, so the axis, we can actually keep this. Okay, so now we have our Pokeball a little bit easier to see, and let's start with our first material. So choose black and go to the color, and just choose like something very dark gray. Don't choose anything black, because black doesn't exist in the real world. The same for white. Never use something that is actually white or actually black, because it just doesn't exist. Always try to choose something different from color wise. Okay, there we go. A little bit bluish, kind of dark gray. And there we go. Go to the reflectance channel, delete the default specular, go to Beckman. The reflectance channel is actually something new from R17, I think. Maybe R16, I'm not sure. So if you know, post it in the description, well, in the comments below. So the rest can see which version reflectance came at. But it's actually a lot better than the previous way of doing it with older versions of Cinema 4D. So if you don't have reflectance, I really opt you to go for reflectance. It's so much better. You can do so much more with it. So it's pretty great. Okay, so continuing with this part, we're going to change the roughness to 75. We're going to get rid of the specular and just get the reflection at like 1%. Go to the bump strength, change the mode to custom bump map, and go to the custom texture and use a noise. Then we're going to change the global scale to 10 and just increase the contrast like so. That's all you should do, and just drop it on here and on here. And now we have our black part for our Pokeball. Next, I'm going to do the top part here. The first thing that I will do is add a HDRI map to my scene. It's going to give me a little bit of a better idea of my entire scene. So I'm going to create a new material, and I'm going to rename this to HDRI, and close these two down, go to Illuminance, and then I'm going to load this image. I actually have HDR files. If you can find them online, there are like multiple files, and these are actually just 360 images in HDR, so high dynamic range, which means that the shadows are like a lot more visible and the highlights are not overexposed, but you get a lot of information, and that way this is going to be like a light source, but also as a reflection source for your image. So I'm going to load this one here. I can't share it with you because it's not mine. So I'm going to close the physical sky, and I'm actually going to make a real sky. It's going to be easier if I'm going to try to approach realism. So if we render this out, we can see our scene right here. I'm going to right click on my sky, Cinema 4D text, compositing, and scene by camera. I'm going to check this off. And I'm also going to add an effect, ambient occlusion. So I'm going to continue with my texturing. I'm going to do the bottom part right now. So like a white, kind of reflecting, but not too much. Choose this at white bottom part, and choose a almost white color here, and go for a reflectance channel again, delete the specular, and add a Beckman again. And I'm going to increase the roughness just a tiny bit, and I'm going to remove the reflections, and especially the specular, I guess. And then also for the bump, I'm going to load like a, well, actually, I'm not going to add a bump for this one. It's going to be like a clean color here. And I'm going to change the reflectance here to Fresnel. I'm going to choose a dielectric glass. And there we go. And that's going to add our Fresnel to the bottom. And actually, for this one, we should do this as well. Go to the reflectance, go to Fresnel, and use a conductor. And just keep it at the way it is right now. Maybe add a little bit more reflection, or well, keep it at 1. Shouldn't be too reflective, the center here. So we have our bottom part now. I'm going to just keep it as it is, so we can preview everything later on. And I'm actually going to use this for the button as well. Actually, I'm going to click on our texture and Control drag it out and rename this to grayish. Okay, button. And then the only thing that I will do is go to the color here and just make it a little bit more gray and put that on our button here. Okay, and now for the interesting part, the top shell, we're going to try and recreate a rich red color, a bit like a red car, like the car paint with these flakes on there, like when the sun hits the car, that you see these glittery things there. So that's a cool concept. Red top coat. And choose a red color, so go for red, a little bit less, and something like this should be fine. Go back to the reflectance channel and delete the specular. Then add a GGX and increase the roughness to 60 here. And change the color of the layer to red. And okay, this should be it for the base coat. Rename this to base. Then add another one, Beckmann, and we're going to, well, keep the roughness at 0. The reflection is, well, everything we will keep it as it is, and we're going to rename this to flakes. And also the channel, the layer color changes to red, and go to a custom bump map at the mode here. And then for custom texture, go for noise and increase, well, change the noise scale to like 0.005 maybe. Very, very small, because we're working with a very, very small object here, 6.35 millimeters. So if you have another object, if you have a bigger object, you can maybe play with this scale, because it really depends on the model and the size of the model. Then I'm also going to increase the contrast right here and change like the low clip a little bit, like so. And okay, that's it. I'm going to change the layer adjustment layer to additive and change this to 65 maybe. Then add another Beckmann here on top of everything, and glass coat, and rename it to glass coat. Then for this, I'm just going to the final layer for now and change it to the electric glass here, preset glass. That's all you should do for this one. And now if we're going to preview this, I'll drag it on our shell. And if we're going to preview this, I'm actually going to try and get like a nice angle of this Pokeball. It should have these nice flakes in it. And look how nice this is actually getting. We really see these nice flakes in our texture, and it's like a rich red metal Pokeball. So it's like an actual Pokeball that, yeah, it's pretty pretty solid. Okay, so this is pretty great. I'm also going back to the black here, and I'm going to decrease it to like 7% maybe. And another thing that I will do is maybe go to the gray scale, well, the gray button here, and add a little bit more reflection, because we can see some reflection in the white and in the gray here. And then another thing that I will do that I didn't do in the modeling part, but if you have followed the modeling part of this tutorial, I will just delete this button here, so I'm not sure which one that is. I'm actually going to, okay, I'm going to delete this one, and I'm going to copy this one out of there. And actual button, press button or whatever. And I'm going to scale it down just because I really don't like that we can't see any bevel on there. So I'm going to scale it like this, and there we go. Now we have our bump map here. Actually, we can just drag this in here. Okay, I'm going to make it smaller like so, and drag it in. And there we go. And then for the button, I will also add a cap, fillet cap. And radius can be like 0.1, okay? 1 This is still way too big, so we really have to play with really small numbers here because the model is so small. 0.05 maybe. Still too big. Okay, 0.005. And now we're starting to get somewhere. Now we get a bevel, but the bevel segment is like 1. Okay, maybe change this to a 1. So now we have this here. And okay, so it's still kind of rounded up, so I'm not sure why that is. But let's see how this looks in a real render. So I'm going to drag this texture on there, and also this texture on here. Or yeah, okay, on the sides of this texture, and I'm going to render this out. Okay, so now we're getting some nice results. Also with the ambient occlusion, it's giving us like this nice black here and the black shadows on the edges of objects, and it gives a nice touch on our model. Okay, so if we zoom like from here, let's see what this gives us. Okay, the button is like better finished right now, so it's looking a lot better. Maybe a little bit not enough reflection, and I'm going to take away the roughness here, maybe 1, and the reflection of 30. Oh, there we go. And the same for the roughness here. Okay, and one thing I will do now is implement it with an actual file here. So I'm going to import a video file, new material, video. So I'm going to open up and go to the color channel, change this texture to an image, and I'm going to load up that image right here. I'm not going to use a video just because it's easier to work this way, and I'm going to zoom and create a new camera maybe. Okay, there we go. And just position it somewhere like where it's actually having a realistic size. Then I'm also going to make a plane and put that Pokeball actually drop to floor. This is a plugin which is free, which you can find online, and this is always going to drop your Pokeball to the floor position. So you can see it's sticking on there pretty nicely. Yes, yeah, it's perfectly on the floor, and that's really easy if you're doing a lot of compositing work. So I really encourage you to get it. Okay, so we have it like so, and then for the plane, I'm also going to drag this background on here and projection to frontal, and I'm going to right click on our plane and go to the compositing tags and scene by camera. I'm going to explain right away why I added that plane. I'm going to disable it first and just do a render, well, without saving it. So I'm just going to render it out into my viewport here. This was actually from another project, it doesn't matter. Okay, so we're rendering this out, and as you can see, it's like the Pokeball is just floating there, but there's still a floor, so that's something really weird. And why is that? And if we're going to close this down, well, I'm just going to let it render first and enable that plane here, and also render this out. Alright, so here is the outcome without a floor, and if we apply that floor with our texture with a frontal mapping, you can see right here it's like it's actually on the floor. We can see it has shadows because of the lines that we added to the scene. It's actually casting the shadows and the ambient occlusion here. Also, the reflection to the bottom of this shell here is going to be the reflection of this plane that we did with the projected image on. So it's actually taking the actual scene as a reflection to that shell. And as you can see, there is an incredible big difference between these two scenes. This is just crap, and this is the actual scene. Like the Pokeball is actually there, so that's pretty fun. And something that I did do before, while rendering this scene, was adding an area light. So because we are using a background and the sky as a reflection map, it still doesn't provide us any light to our scene, and unfortunately without global illumination we can't achieve this. But global illumination is something that takes so much time to render, and I really hate using that. So I'm going to add one light, add an area here, add that light to the area and the array here. Yeah, I should be saying array. To the array, and go to the light, and then change the general shadow to soft. And then just the only thing that I did is the array, I position it like way above, like so, and maybe made it a little bit wider to like 500 or so. And now we have like light coming from everywhere. We can make it a little bit bluish if you want to. It's totally up to you, and maybe less intensive, depending on whatever you like. So just try and play around and then just render this scene, and you will see that it's rendering very quickly using the physical render engine with our AGR image as a reflection map and our light as an actual light map. So we can go a little bit more intense. As we can see here, it's actually white, and here it's kind of getting gray. So maybe just keep this at 100. It's not that it's seen in the preview is overexposed that it will be in the final scene. So we can see here it's already a lot better. And there we go. Maybe here is a little bit more, but I think this is going to work fine for whatever we want. Okay, maybe our array is a little bit too high and it's not casting any light here. So I'm going to get the array down again. Okay, there we go. So now we can see that our sphere is lit up on the bottom. And if we render this out, we will see that we have a nice sphere here with some shadows on the bottom. Okay, so now we have great render settings. Of course, this is at sampling low, so you can go in the physical render engine here. And actually, I'm going to close this down. You can go over here, change the physical adaptive to like medium or even high. Of course, this is going to increase your render time. So for the final render, you could do that. And then one thing that I will do is go to the top part of our Pokeball, well, to the Pokeball in its whole, rotate it towards the camera like so, and open the top part. And then one last thing we should do is get in here, well, okay, press H on the keyboard to find your object again. And then I'm also going to create one last material and rename it to Chrome and change the color here to black. We can use a complete black here and go to the Beckman and just keep the reflection like so. Go to Fresnel, the electric, and use, well, conductor, I'm sorry, and use chromium. And just paste this, and we'll put this on our inner part. So on the top part, well, actually, I'm going to open this up here. And the red black cap, and also for the bottom part, we're going to do this for the black inside here. So we're going to drag and drop this onto this layer and on this layer, and then we're going to choose this selection and put this into the selection here. So it's only going to be affecting that part here. And I'm not sure why, but this part isn't using any black, so I'm going to copy this black by holding Ctrl and dragging it over here, but just make sure that it's in front of the mirror here. So now we have textured the inside. I'm going to close this down again, just change the coordinations here, the rotation to 0, and then I'm just going to render this out, and yes, okay. Okay, so here we have our image. I'm going to save it. Open up Photoshop, and then just drag this image right over here so we import it in Photoshop. And we have this line here. I'm not sure what it is doing here, so I'm going to just delete this spot healing tool. I'm going to get this at 5 or like 7 pixels. Just remove this line. I'm not sure what this is. Should get into it if I want to fix it, but there we go. We removed our line and we can barely see it. It was ever there. So we have our Pokeball in Photoshop. Now we can go to the filter, camera raw filter, and here we can just do some adjustments to our image, and that are going to make it look a little bit better, a little bit more popped. So I'm going to increase the exposure just a bit, increase the contrast, remove some of the highlights and add some of the shadows, and add like a lot of clarity. I really love clarity, and add more vibration, vibrance, and just add like 60% vibrance, maybe a little bit less, because reds are really getting very overexposed easily. So I'm going to keep it at 0, and we're going to look at this later. For the highlights, we can play around with this just like so. Lights are okay, so I'm going to keep this at 0. Everything else is actually okay, so I'm going to keep these at 0. Oh, 0. Then for the sharpening, we can add a little bit more sharpness and remove some of the noise. What we could also do is like make our Pokeball a blurred like 1 pixel, but we don't have it separately right now because right now it's way too sharp actually, but I'm trying to get my image sharper as well, so it's not that obvious. But right here in the hue, we can just change the hue of the Pokeball if we made a little mistake. Maybe make it a little bit more orange, like so, something like this. We can play around with the greens, make them a lot more greener, and just play around with everything and see what works and what doesn't. It's a stylistic choice again. I'm going to keep the saturation of the reds at this level, and then for the yellows I'm going to increase them, also the green, so we have like more color contrast in our scene. So I'm going to keep it like this. And then for the split toning, I'm going for the highlight in a orange color and a shadow in the blue colors, like so. And just get it up a little bit, not too much. And this is actually already a little bit much. So if we're going to press P on the keyboard, we're going to see before and after image, which is already improving our image in itself. So if we're going to zoom out like a little bit and see this image, it's pretty cool. I did my sample at medium because it's a lot faster to do, so that's why we can see that my Pokeball isn't perfect. You should go for the physical render and go for a high quality. We can also change the distortion, which sometimes can make your image look like it's more into the scene because it's distorted with the image, but I'm going to keep it at 0 for now. Then the haze, we can play and add some haze to the scene, like -3 could work. I'm not sure. Don't really like it here, so I'm going to keep it at 0 and just play around with everything. We can click OK once we're done, and now we have our final image with our Pokeball, and this is what the final result gives us. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you are wondering what I used for my other scene, I had like with the Pokeball where it's open and there had like a magic source in it. The magic source is actually from our magic pack on our website, which you can see on the store page. A link will be in the description. We just used like a sample image from that, and well, we just put it in there and did some color grading and stuff to get it like to look magical. But if you buy that pack, and there are tutorials included in there that explain how to achieve that look. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, give it a like. Also subscribe to the channel for more. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.